Hey there team, and welcome back to the channel, welcome back to some more Homeseek. Now, we had the last second realization that the water wells will potentially get filled up a bit from the rain. 240 per hour due to rainfall. Oh, wonderful. Hang on. Water extractor. That's cool how it moved the pipes for me. That's great. That's really great. Good. Well, it's not even UI. UX, I suppose, right? It's player usability. Less about interface. Okay, supermarket. Where were we with this? Try to break open what's inside. Some of the spikes still poke us, but the formation breaks open easily, revealing itself to have a fleshy, juicy inner portion. We realise they must be some type of plant we've never seen before. Either way, we managed to harvest its moisture in its insides. Nice. So is it sort of like a pineapple? I found this just to be confusing. I guess, for whatever reason, I thought that this was like in the supermarket car park, not the store. Okay, that's fine. We find the market shelves completely empty when we enter, and we find little more than cracked bones of a few old skeletons lying around on the floor. In hindsight, it seems only natural that this place would be one of the first to be looted. A back room, perhaps once a walk-in freezer, is still locked in the back. I can't break into it. Alright. I guess we can just run the clock. Ignore the locked room. We decide among ourselves to ignore it. We bypass the old freezer. It's probably empty like everything else. You've completed research. Okay. Water extractor. Let's upgrade the workforce limit on that. Or perhaps it should be a farm thing. Converts contaminated, poor or clean water to food. Does the quality of the water make a difference? Farms can convert water into food. They must be placed in arable land. Yep. Farms need to have an input to water storage and export to food storage. This is a very helpful index, isn't it? On contrary with other converters, they don't produce food every minute. They instead have to fulfill a batch. Right. They can use any type of water except whatever that bloody water is. Salty water. Okay, right. Based on the quality of the water used, food production will be affected in both quantity and quality. Yes, okay, this changes things. This changes things a lot. So what do we want to do here? We need to get this building back in commission, for starters. Let's empty out this pile. Let's fire this up. Okay. Now. Water storage there. Can I send that to there? I can. Hang on, let me just think about this for a sec. Yeah. Right. And then from there, that goes into this water storage. Connect with a water converter or a distribution center. I want to connect to the farm. Is it because the farm is only allowed to have one connection? Connect with any water storage. why it's not a range issue. Is it simply because this is empty? Why is it that it won't let me connect to that? Connect with a water converter or a distribution center. Now you're just confusing me, game. Connect with any water storage. That's a water storage. I'm going to risk destroying this. Okay. Something weird was going on there. You know what? It might be because it's cross-contaminated water. I bet you that's what it was. Okay, so at the moment we've got a bunch of walker towers feeding into that. However, we're going to want more guys there. Oh my goodness, this is becoming complex. How's the actual... I should check these laws. Travel lightly. And they don't need to... Applying. Okay. Alright. Max. Now this has max inputs, doesn't it? The 2 walker towers. 3 walker towers, if I recall. No, water extractor there. I might terminate this connection. Oh, you get a bit of a refund. That's nice. Okay. Distribution's turned off for that. That in there? Oh my god. Okay, hang on. I can do this, but it's got to be near the converter. 50% is not great, but... There we go. Right, so this water storage has those 3 connections going out. Now, we're going to sever the distribution from this. And we're going to set distribution from this. Jesus, it's a mess. Right, now they're not allowed to distribute from there. And this should cover everything. And it's better water. Now the question is, We're producing a lot of that, but we're losing a lot of that. Food-wise, though, closer. And are we doing water extractor? I've changed my mind. I want farm. Farm upgrades. Oh my god, look at this mess. That's so good. Alright. Find a new location to settle. As far as expeditions go, we've got max expeditions, I believe, 2 out of 2. And we still don't know what happens when they run out of stuff. Now, hypothetically, I could rig up another 3 walker towers up here, probably. And then they would go into a water storage. Like that. Which in turn would go into this. Which we could do. How would we go about that? I would want a water storage. Oh, infinite range, basically. As long as the towers are both in the thing. So we do something like that, and then we get a water storage, and we put it like there, and make sure that they can both connect. Alright, and then we connect this to that. Oof! Mate, it's about as clean as it gets. Again, we could probably connect another walker tower, but I think we've run out of coverage up there. Okay, I've got 3 spare workers. Food's still a problem. Cannot use this building to cover their needs. That's right, they can use this one. What's going on here? Expedition requires your attention. Yeah, it's a shame it doesn't shortcut me to this better for the last part. The supermarket doesn't seem to have much in the way of useful supplies to offer us, much to our disappointment. We can imagine many ways such a facility might have been used by the denizens of the old world. We spend some time imagining the old function of the supermarket. The supermarket was clearly first and foremost a place for people to buy supplies, but it seems like it could have served as a communal meeting place and a sort of informal town centre as well. Oh, very cool. Discovered the law of smaller rations. Citizens' daily food and water needs are reduced by 5, but their max happiness is also reduced by 25%. Yeah? I mean, that sounds good to me. Alright, we'll send our desert rats out to there. Very sick citizens. They've got 2 days of drinking water. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, hang on. Wasn't there a really good pop-up info thing? A citizen has died by food contamination. Okay. How do I get that info panel? God, game, can't you just be easier to navigate? Options? You know what I mean? That I was... Oh. No, this is just a log. Index. There it is. Shit, now what did I want to look up? Expeditions. That's right. You can send expeditions through the center. In order to do so, you must form a party with at least 3 citizens. After adding citizens, you can add resources. While outside the settlement, the explorers will consume food and water to survive and scrap to build shelters. If they fail to cover these needs, their happiness might drop too low, which can in turn cause them to abandon the party and the settlement altogether. Yeah? In some scenarios, you'll be able to add animals to your expedition. Right, I get that, and it says that there are people that are ill in the expedition. I don't know what to tell you, game. Do I bring them back? Community. Smaller rations. Let's vote on that. Wait. Yeah, I was going to say, it won't vote without people there. Weather status changed to normal. Okay. Guess the rain stopped. Well, how's our water looking? See, that's tough to track. Production, construction, consumption. $144 per hour. Idle. What's this? The mountain pass. A distant wall of mountains loom in the distance. That's distance. Okay, yeah. Beyond which may lie new sources of vital food and water. Navigating the single narrow pass that winds between the otherwise impassable peaks will be difficult and dangerous, but with our dwindling supplies, we must undertake the effort if we wish to survive much longer. As the column of our expedition makes its way up the mountain trail, we begin to hear a distant rumbling. The noise quickly grows louder before suddenly the great boulders of a rock slide are falling all around us. When the dust clears, it is apparent that many of us have been separated on the other side of the rocky barrier. Oh. May take an extremely long time, but we need to try and clear away. We'll die of thirst or starvation if we stay or try to save them. It feels horrible, but we have to leave them behind. That's tricky. Take an extremely long time. Bugger it, leave them behind. Come to the realization we have no choice. I think it's one dude that we left behind. Alright, meanwhile, we've got this soup kitchen. Even despite the wealth and excess of the old world, there were apparently still many with nothing to their name. Those who starved while others ate. These facilities were a feeble attempt to provide food for those who couldn't afford it. Feeble? Again, come on, game. You're getting dangerously close to preachy, some of your shit. These facilities were an attempt. You know, you're poisoning the well if you put the word feeble in there. Don't put your finger on the scales if you don't want to get pushback. Looking at them now, they seem a pitiful attempt at compassion. How could the people of the old world build such frivolous towers of glass and steel when they could not even take care of their own? Oh my god, this was written by someone in year 10 that doesn't actually understand how the world works. Okay. Good to know that in the post-apocalypse, the people that survive are wankers. That's great. Take me, wipe me out in the apocalypse because I don't want to live with these goobers. After breaking camp one morning, we find that a great portion of our supplies are missing from our packs. A single pair of footprints trail off into the wasteland away from our campsite. The expeditioner, who was supposed to be on guard, admits to falling asleep. What should we do? Follow the tracks into the wasteland and track down the thief? These things happen. We'll have to make do. We'll just have to make do. Also, we don't have anything to steal. So the game seems to have a bit of a fault in the fact that I can just send pricks into the wilderness without anything, and it doesn't punish me. Now, is that a bug or is that working as intended? I mean, I suppose I'm failing a bunch of optional events where I can't use scrap to build something because I don't have it. Two expeditioners have died due to the last event. Hang on. What last event? Water loss. A survivor alerts the encampment that our water reserves have sprung a leak. It's only natural that our makeshift tanks will fail from time to time, but we find odd scrapes and dents that are evident in the tank near the source of the leak. Some of us can't help but think that sabotage may be involved. Oh no. Oh geez, we've lost a bunch of dirty water. So what's happened here? Right. As a column of our expedition... Oh, okay. We've come to the realization we have no choice to move on. Poor old Keaton and Ignatia have died. We'll continue on down the mountain pass, leaving those stranded behind the falling rocks to their fate. So it goes. It's a bit weird how the notifications pop up and kind of spoil the event. That's not ideal. The trek through the mountains is extremely long and arduous, and after much forced marching, some of our expedition begin to protest. A small but significant minority express the desire to turn back to find some other way back through the mountains and look for other sources of water back the way that we came. Sooks. Map clearly indicates that our best chances of finding water lies on the other side of the mountains. They'll die of thirst if we allow them to break off and turn back. They're in charge of their own destiny. Let them do as they please, even if it would mean their doom. I mean, I've only got 3 people left. No, stuff them. Let's force them. We'll press gang them. Although it slows our progress. The game's working really hard to slow my progress on this particular event, which makes me think that this is the one that gets us through. We're not feeding people enough, which is not ideal. All right, back to the soup kitchen. We continue along. These things happen. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there is something kind of generic / bland that we're running 2 different expedition teams at once, and I'm getting their events cross over, but it's not. Again, the only other game that really does this is Frostpunk, and it does it 10 out of 10. This, like, I know maybe you could argue it's an unfair comparison, but what can I say? You're going after the big dog and you're doing not as great a job. I'm not trying to bash the game, but like this is all just sort of blurring into one thing that occasionally belts me over the head with the ideological stick. But like it is a bit samey. That, you know, like I can't tell which events happening in which expedition or whatever. It's a bit bland, I suppose, is what I'm saying. The soup's kitchen stands in one of the less destroyed parts of town. Stories say that this used to be deep in the poorest slum of the city, but now it is one of the only neighbourhoods left standing. Behind some old crates, we find an entrance to a basement locked with a rusty chain. Again, it's always scrap, isn't it? I can't act on that. I feel like if I could make some brief commentary, the closest analogy is Frostpunk, easily. But with Frostpunk, the overworld component is much briefer and much less involved. It's very much a side thing. This exploring with these 2 parties is taking up 50% of my time, if not more, right? Because the technology is so slow with drip feeding, and I haven't gotten any new survivors in like episodes. I got a bunch at the beginning. But like as far as the base management, the ebb and flow, there is no ebb and flow. I took a moment to rework my water networks, but even with all the events and all that happening, it's situation no change. This whole episode, and pretty much the episode before it, right? So we're spending the king's share of time in the weakest part of the game, which is the expedition overlay, and we already talked about why it's weak and it's not that great. Whereas, like I said, with Frostpunk, you spend 1% of your time just you'll read the flavor text, you'll move your guys onto the next place, and that's it. And then you go back in, and then you spend so much time reworking your entire city and all that, right? So this game's messed up that flow, and I will just take a moment to talk about that theory, the theory between split game mechanics, and you've got to be really careful. Two great examples I like to use: Tarkov. I know a lot of people like Tarkov. I think aspects of Tarkov are brilliant, especially the gunplay. The actual game is great fun, but when you spend 50%, if not more, of your time fucking around in its really horrible inventory, and the inventory is terrible because it's trying so hard to put 10,000 different sights in there and, 17 handles for your AK-47. Like, it's overwhelming and terrible to navigate, and it's just an unpleasant experience. And you're spending, I would argue, if you wanted to theory craft it, what's a reasonable amount of time to spend in the weaker game mechanic? And it shouldn't be 50%. I think we can agree on that. So Tarkov, I like Tarkov, but my hot take is I think that it's terribly unbalanced with where you spend your time as a player. And another one that I can think of is Surviving the Aftermath, another post-apocalyptic colony survivor, which has two split mechanics working on your colony, but it spends more than half the time in an overworld map where you move dudes around with action points, and it's fucking terrible. It's really, really bad, and it kills me because I wanted that game to be good, given its pedigree, but yeah. So this is sort of on track to run into that problem. However, one more caveat, one more thought, because this is giving me a lot to think about. I feel that this might be part of this first mission. And I'm not saying it's okay. I think you screwed, the guys that made this have kind of screwed up their flow, their gameplay flow and first impressions on this first mission. But I get the feeling that once we get out of the valley, we might get into more robust base building and the balance might balance out a bit better. But then that opens up another whole conversation about don't fuck up your first 30 to 60 minutes of a game. Your player's going to refund it and go buy something better. Anyway, so that's disappointing. I'm not enjoying the expedition part as much as I'd like to. And I feel like anyone that has spent any time playing any games in these genres would probably come to the same conclusion. And perfect timing, because I think we probably finished the mission, right?
At the constant mercy of the elements, we've barely scraped.
I wouldn't say barely, it's not that tough.
Our stomachs groan, our mouths are parched, and each day feels like it could be our last. And yet, despite these
geez, what's going on there?
We've persisted. The uncertainty of our existence is daunting. While we continue to draw breath, hope remains. Day by day, our will to survive grows stronger. Some of us are even beginning to believe we just might make it.
Okay. New mission? Now, don't get me wrong. Like I said, if I don't like a game, it just disappears off the channel. Usually, if I take the time to be critical, it's because I really like it. 80% overall performance. Okay, well, that's cool. I've unlocked a new chapter story. Cool. Continue. But this is definitely weak, and I wouldn't even put it in the same echelon as its forebears, which I would call Frostpunk and Ixion. Those two of these hardcore narrative colony managers. It might be my favorite new genre of the past couple of years, honestly. I love those games to death. And this is really good, but it's like if you were doing a tier system and those were like S tier or A, this is B, right? So it's good, it's okay, but it's got some problems. And if anything, it's going to benefit from being one of the first guys to jump in and try and capitalize on that space. Because I'd love to see another half dozen of those sort of games exist. But yeah, it's a fair attempt, you know? A second Sanctuary. That said, again, maybe they've shit the bed with their pacing early. It could pick up. It doesn't mean I'm not going to stop. If you guys keep watching and we keep getting the views, I will keep playing this because I'm really enjoying it. But it is fun to kind of have a bit of critical analysis around what makes this game tick and what it's kind of getting wrong, because it's probably my favorite genre at the moment, this weird, obscure sub-colony genre. A second sanctuary. We've almost exhausted our supplies when we come across the remnants of an abandoned camp on the bank of a dry riverbed. Even the smallest chance of water being found is enough to make us stop. Perhaps the previous occupants held a similar notion, though whatever made them move on is an ominous mystery. The varying levels of elevation could prove problematic when attempting to move water uphill, but for now, we decided to make the most of this promising land. Okay, cool. Onwards and upwards. The other thing is, like, it feels like there's a checklist going on here. Like, it's doing all the narrative elements, it's doing all the things, it's ticking all the boxes. Like, if you wanted to write a report, a very bland, objective review about this compared to something like Frostpunk, it probably ticks all the boxes perfectly. But at the same time, there's something kind of missing. It feels a bit soulless, right? Yes, we've got the walls of text. Yes, we've got narrative elements pushing forward, but it still feels bland. So I can't quite put my finger on it. Because again, if you wanted me to write a list of what makes Frostpunk special, and does this game do all of that, it probably does do all the exact correct things. And yet, it feels kind of soulless. God, that feels like I'm really bashing it. I'm not trying to bash it, but I'm just trying to unpack there's something off and I can't put my finger right on it. The varying levels of elevation in a new camp have given us the additional headache of needing to transport water upwards. Oh, are we doing like pressure head? That's cool. That'd be cool to see more water, like, to get ahead of myself, more water-based mechanics. Timberborn's a game I should bring back and give a bit more of a go. I only ever barely touched that, but the same idea. It's all about moving water up and down in a colony. While some theorise ways in which this might be achieved, others believe a solution may be discovered in the nearby area, since people of the old world must surely have faced and resolved the same problem. Discover a technology for transporting water upward. Research that technology once found. Okay. Elevation. In most scenarios, the terrain has multiple elevation heights. Oh, this excites me. This is actually turning me back the other way. Not that I know I've spent a lot of time criticizing this game. I'm not down on it. I really like it. But this could be what brings me right back. In most scenarios, the terrain has multiple heights. You cannot form a water connection from a lower level towards a higher one. Fair enough. The only way to do this is using specific buildings like the Archimedes screw. You've got to be kidding. This is cool. So make sure to take that into account during city building. All right. Well, I don't have the tech yet. So we've got some scrap piles, some berry bushes. Anyway, what we'll do is we'll put a pin in it there and we can hit it fresh. We've got way more play space. I wish there was a quicker way to scroll. See, this scroll speed is so slow. Maybe I can turn it up in the options, but it seems a bit odd being this slow. Yeah. This is like 3 times larger than our last base, which is pretty cool. All right. Anyway, team, let me know what you think. Maybe you have some thoughts, agree, disagree with my ranting. But if you do want to see some more, let me know and we'll keep going. Otherwise, I might just leave it there for the time being and I'll catch you guys on the next one.